Yeah, hi there, and welcome back, and let us continue with our lecture. And today we are going to learn about the flowable and the observable. So the flowable is similar to the observable, but this comes to a picture when your observable is emitting a huge number of values that can be received and consumed by your observer. So let's say your observable is emitting too much of value, and that is cannot be consumed or received by your observer. So at that time, it will have an error. In this case, the observer need to do skip some values based on the strategy, or else it will throw an exception. So we must have some strategy over here to what to do when you receive too much of item that your observer cannot consume it. So here the flowable observable makes sense because it handles the exception with a strategy. So in the flowable observable, what we can do is we can provide a strategy over there, and this strategy is called the back pressure strategy, and the exception is called the missing back pressure exception. So which means that the flowable makes sense over here because it can handle all this emission of the huge number of the values by providing or giving some strategy what to do when there is this kind of situation. An observer for the flowable is same as the observer for the observable. And let's take a look on the back pressure strategy that we have. The first one is a drop. We use this to discard the event that cannot consume by the observer. Let's say if we set as the strategy to the drop, which means that it will discard all of the item that cannot be consumed. And the buffer, if we use this, the source will buffer all the events until the subscriber can consume it. And we can also have a default size of 128 for the buffer. And the latest, which means that it forces the source to keep only the latest item. That means if there is a new item coming and if you have a previous item, that can be overwritten. And the missing, we may temporarily pass this value if you don't want any back pressure strategy. So if you don't want to provide any strategy, then we can say that just provide a missing strategy over here. Error, if you don't expect a back pressure at all, and we can pass the back pressure strategy of the error. So if you can provide the error, which means that if you don't want any back pressure strategy, and if you don't expect there will be a issue for the back pressure at all. And in both cases, like a back pressure strategy of missing and in the error, it will throw a missing back pressure exception. So let us take this one in our practical project. So let's go back to our Android Studio and let us see how we can implement all of this. So let us create a function over here, and I'll just create a function and call it as a flowable. And then what we will do is return type is of flowable, and the type let's give us as an int of a return type. And then we will do a return over here and flowable. So let us make of the range over here. So we will give from 1 to count of the 100, let's say. And I think I will give a better name. I think the name should be something better over here. Really create a flowable observable. I think that should be better. And let's go back to the activity over here and let us make use of this one. So just copy this function and let's go over here, and then what we will do is we will subscribe to it, and inside this subscribe I will implement all of the on next, and on error is there, and finally we have on complete. So I think I'll just copy, I'll copy from somewhere here. That should be fine. Just copy this one and paste it over here. So that is fine. And let us try to run this and let us see the output that we get. And yeah, we get from 1 to 100. And how to apply the back pressure strategy is we have option dot on back pressure. So on back pressure, you can see that we have some option over here, which is to get the latest, drop, and buffer. So what we'll do is we will, I think, let's make use of a drop. And if I go and run this one, actually it will not go and do anything. Let's go and log it. So we still get from 1 to 100. So this is very less number, but if we have a lot of on next, let's say it's emitting too much of value, then we should have some problem over here. So if you want to stimulate the error, then what we can do is we can make use of observe one. So observe one, and I'll by SCHUT schedulers dot dio. So don't worry about all of this for now. Scheduler, we will be covering up this scheduler in our next section. And we have a delay error, let's say a false, FALSC false, and then I will give a buffer size. So third option, I have a buffer size of, let's say I will give a buffer size of 10, and scheduler.io over here. So don't worry about the schedulers for now, because we'll be covering up on the next section. So the scheduler.io, basically just I'm saying I want to do operation in a background thread, IO thread, and I provide a delay of a false and a buffer size of 10. Now let's try to run this one. We are just trying to stimulate the error. So actually we don't have to provide all of this option in the actual application. So if you go to the logcat, you can see that we have only output from 1 to 10, and rest is missing over there. And if I keep on back pressure, so I just want latest, so let's give a latest. So we should get from 1 to 10 and then 100. So if you run again, so it will make use of the back pressure of the latest. Only the latest one is kept, so we get up to 100, 1 to 10, and then 100. The buffer size is 10 over here. And another one on buffer, drop the buffer, let us give the buffer. And now if you give the buffer, it will make use of 1 to 100 without any problem. Yeah. So that's how we create the flowable with the on back pressure strategy. And let's go and create the another option. Let me copy the whole thing over here, and I want to make use of the, instead of flowable, I'll make use of the observable over here. So let's see how we can convert the observable to the flowable. And let's create the observable of, let's say, T2 over here, and let's go back to our activity over here, and let me comment out this one, and I have to make use of this one. So just copy this and paste it over here, and dot, I can now convert it to flowable. So to flowable is the option that I want to convert, and I have to provide the back pressure strategy over here, back pressure strategy, and we have a latest missing error drop buffer. So I can say that the missing, and if I go to the implementation over here, you can just go and read all of this. So we have a missing error buffer drop and the latest back pressure strategy, and I provide a missing and dot. I think I will just copy the same thing from here. That should be fine. I'll just copy the same thing over here. Okay, and now let us try to run our application, and we should get a error of the, let's go to the logcat, and you can see we get a missing back pressure exception. So this is a missing, and also if we provide a missing and the error, this will also throw an error for us. If we go and run, we get an error again, missing back pressure exception. But if you provide some other option like latest, then it should okay, let's say we have up to 9, and if I run this one, we should get up to 9. Buffer is set to 9, so we get from 1 to 9 and then 100 because it's the latest. So you can play around with all of these options over here, right? And just go and play around, and you will have more understanding about how does this work. Basically, the scheduler false and the buffer size is not required, because we just want to trigger that how does this actually work when we have some back pressure issue. So in actual application, we don't have to provide all of this. So this is to stimulate the error only. We are providing all of these options. So don't worry about the scheduler. We'll cover up in our coming lecture. So that's all. And in this lecture, we learned about the flowable observable in this section, as well as the back pressure strategy. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day.